Welcome back. We've been discussing the budget wish list that state governments have, also the fate of the crucial goods and services tax. With us, K. Pandeyarajan, the member of the GST Council representing Tamil Nadu, also Krishna Bairegoda from the state of Karnataka, part of the GST Council. Mr. Pandeyarajan, back to you. We just heard from the Finance Minister of Assam before we went into the break saying that the 1st of July seems to be a much more realistic timeline as far as the GST rollout is concerned. Would you agree?
Yeah, the question is who win these 5 state elections. You have, if you have the spectacle of all opposition winning kind of a thing. See, till now, the GST Council has largely worked without any political considerations. There's not been, everybody has been split along the lines of the issues. And if that remains so, I would see a good consensus emerging very soon. Hemanto Biswas from Assam was pointing out that it's February 15th. It's actually January 16th that we are meeting now. Right. In another week from now, we are meeting. And if this 16th is when we are meeting. So if that does happen, there could well be a consensus at that time, because there are only 2 issues on which a decision is eluding us. And those 2 issues could actually be resolved in 4 or 5 hours if central government really senses the mood of the House and is able to take some positive steps. I don't see any reason why it can't be closed now. Waiting for the elections to end and, coming back with a new set of people, in my view, it's a greater risk for the central government. I think they should, they know issues which are involved. They know the extent of flexibility that they could really have. I would really like to see this getting closed on January 16th, in which case 1st of July is a possibility. If it is not closed and allowed to fester along, you would have a serious chance of going further beyond 1st of July. 1st of April is out of questions currently. There's no way they can take it to the parliament soon enough. Even if we do agree on a consensus, the legal vetting needs to happen, the legal drafting, redrafting needs to happen. It has to come back to the GST Council. I don't see a 30th January taking to the parliament possible. So yeah, 1st of July is possible if and only if we do the resolution now and in the next 1 week. If it doesn't happen, you may actually have to go back to a constitutional amendment and say that next April, that's 1st of April 2018, would probably be the most realistic time when we can start GST, and that would be, in my view, just in terms of more likely if the resolution doesn't happen earlier.
Just in terms of the in terms of the probability of that happening, you're actually suggesting that if we miss this window, which means closing these issues on the 16th of January, then even July 1 is not going to be possible. And then you're suggesting that the government actually move a constitutional amendment to do away with the compulsion of rolling out the GST in September. What are the odds of that at this point in time? You've been a part of the negotiations within the GST Council. You do believe that things have become a little more politicized now within the Council. So the possibility of missing the deadline or the possibility of closing in on this deadline, what are the odds telling you today?
It's completely in the hands of the central government. I think the decision, if they take a rational decision on cross-empowerment, and on IGST. These are the 2 key issues on which the whole thing is stuck. So in my view, central government, if they really want to bring GST quickly, and if it happens by 1st of July, it'll happen. Otherwise, even the corporate pressure will be high to postpone it to a April kind of a date, because their own financial systems need to be re-geared towards this, and they are, they are expressing their view currently that, do it, if you can do it by 1st of April, do it fine, or at least a quarter later, it's fine. Don't do a September 1st kind of a start. That is something which will be a growing pressure. So in my view, I hope the central government realizes that the greatest window they have is January 16th to close out on this cross-empowerment, give what the states want. Because it's not only Congress states or opposition states which are asking this. There are also BJP states which have strongly expressed their view in favor of cross-empowerment. In my view, I think today it's a great thing. People are voting, people are taking positions beyond political affiliations. And if they can close it at this point in time, to the best of both the ability, you would have a great GST, in my view. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
great to
16th
hear,
of
but
January.
let's go across
Correct.
to Mr. Gaura. Mr. Gaura, as Mr. Pandeyarajan was pointing out, there are two contentious issues that remain: dual control, and at least for some governments, if you look at what the West Bengal finance minister, for instance, is saying, then the issue of compensation continues to be alive. Do you believe that compensation can be in any way a hurdle in closing up things on the 16th of January? And on the issue of dual control, do you believe that we could perhaps be faced with a breakthrough come the 16th of January?
Yes, we had agreed about compensation, but post demonetization, there are real worries that the revenue shortfalls will be more than what was anticipated or assessed during the initial calculations. And there was a rough estimate that the compensation total requirement would be in the range of about 55,000 crore rupees per annum. Now there are very informal assessments coming out that would be more than 55,000 crores. It may go even as much as about 80,000 crores. So if the requirement for compensation swells, then where is that additional amount going to come from is a new question that has risen. And secondly, it was anticipated that the states that would require compensation, those that are likely to see a revenue loss on account of GST, was expected to be about somewhere between 7 to 10 states. Now there are informal assessments that as many as 15 or more states may actually see their revenues not meeting the targets and hence require compensation. So because of these two possibilities, the issue of compensation has come back again, though it was agreed upon earlier. Post demonetization, there are real worries about how this compensation arrangement is going to be adhered to. So we states, some of the states or most of the states, have asked for some legal assurance through law that the compensation schedules will be maintained. For example, we want the compensations to be paid on a 2-monthly schedule. At the end of every 2 months, we want the compensation to be paid, whether there is enough cess collection or not, but we want the compensation to be paid on a bi-monthly schedule.
Well, that, Mr. Gaura, the government has agreed to. The finance minister said that they have agreed to that bi-monthly payout mechanism. But we're at the end of our time. Mr. Pandeyarajan, let me give you the final say, sir. Mr. Gaura, Mr. Biswa, everyone talking about, the next big event on the economic calendar, and which is the union budget. The government has made it clear it's sticking to the 1st of February, even though the opposition has raised concerns about the elections clashing with the budget. But what would your key expectations be from the union budget? Do you believe that there is need for stimulus? Do you believe that perhaps the fiscal deficit target could be relaxed if that's what the FRBM committee headed by N.K. Singh suggests? What would your key expectations be?
Our most critical expectation is that whatever CAG has pointed out, almost 86,000 crores what needs to be paid to the state governments have been short devolved. This money, if they commit to pay that within a 3-month period, that will be our greatest expectation. Tamil Nadu will get around 4,500 crores. All the states put together will have around 86,000 crores. The second key expectation for us is central government currently owes us more than 6,000 crores of money, which they've committed to pay for projects, RMSA, SSA, and things like that, which we'd like them to give us a little faster so that the ways and means position for us is not affected. And there are some unique things like defreezing the assets of Nokia, which will allow us to allow Foxconn to take over that company. This was closed because of the retrospective tax of the central government. And now there is someone who can revive that. But what is blocking is the central government freezing the assets. So some of these things, and All India Institute of Medical Sciences, decisions have not been taken yet. We are also asking for many new projects for which concurrences need to happen. Metro Phase 2, for instance, where the funder from Japan is ready, but central government has to make its commitment. There are many such pending projects. River water integration, we like to see a certain thrust. And most important for us is interstate green corridor for power. We have surplus power now of green energy, 10,000 megawatts of power we have. We can give it to the deficient states like Karnataka or Andhra or Kerala, the adjoining states, for which the interstate energy corridor needs to be built by the central government. Things like this for which they can easily get multilateral funding at a much cheaper rate and things like that. So these are some of the key expectations. But most of all, we want us, the government, to relook at this centrally sponsored schemes, current division of 60-40 between center and states. We want that to be relooked for a 2-year period, where we want them to do 90-10, 90% central government, 10% states, to mitigate the effect of demonetization. Because to us, this is one easy way by which they can do the stuff. In any case, it's a centrally sponsored scheme. It was 70-30 earlier. It's been moved to 60-40 now. Move it for 2 years into 90-10 is one specific request that we are given. And a whole lot of pending projects for us, which we like the central government to make a movement in. Lastly, in Tamil Nadu is the only state which has created an asset management company, the first one to create that. We like to have legitimately a funding from National Infrastructure Investment Fund, so that all our new project flows are not affected. That would again keep your revenues high from the state government point of view. We need to be able to spend meaningfully on projects. That's a way to stimulate the economy and do whatever 8%, 9% growth rates that you're seeking really. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for very clearly articulating for us what the expectation is from the union budget, what the expectation is from the crucial meeting of the GST Council on the 16th of January, the possible rollout timeline of the GST, and some very specific expectations there from Finance Minister Arun Jaitley to take note of from state finance ministers as well as key ministers at various state governments. Mr. Pandeyarajan, Hemanta Biswa, Mr. Gaura, appreciate you joining us here. We will continue this conversation with state finance ministers through this month on CNBC TV 18. This is the first edition of State of the Nation, the Budget Barometer. Many thanks for watching.